We'll call the meeting to order at 6:05. And first item on the agenda, the only item on the agenda is paying tuition in non-secular schools, discussion action. So as a little bit of background, based on the Supreme Court decision on the main case, it appears as though you cannot just say no to somebody who wants to use their tuition ability for the secondary school because it's a religious school. We have had some challenges in the past that I know with just the Dover board that we could request some information and that would make it, usually they had to show their curriculum and stuff, but I guess now my understanding is that if they are an approved school, we are required to pay tuition. So we do have some people that have requested that the Dover, that the River Valley pay tuition to a secular school. And we're going to do this in open session because we're not going to talk about specific schools or specific situations, but just Bill was just going to go ahead and approve it. And I felt that the board should not, that instead of just letting Bill go out and kind of hang out there all on his own, that we should have that discussion, either tell Bill whether we want to pay it or not. Bill, I did ask Bill before when he first brought this up to me to just check with the attorney, make sure we were required to pay this and we didn't have much of a choice. And so our choices are we can pay it or we don't pay it and we can be sued. So that's kind of where we're at. Bill, did you want to throw anything else out there? Any other information that I missed?
No, I thought you did a really nice job, very succinctly. I would just say that in addition to our attorney's advice to the board that we should pay it if it does fall under an approved school, that the State Board of Education has ruled in similar cases where if a board has not paid, they have ordered the board to end up reimbursing parents and then paying for actually, all I know is that they have said they will reimburse the parents. Nothing about legal fees was in the order that the state board did in 21. So I think you nailed it, Rich.
Okay, so I'm sure that there wants to be discussion, but I think I asked that on this topic if we would want to make a motion to either pay it or not pay it, and I don't, it's up to you folks, and then we can have discussion on it. Anybody?
I have my hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't see it, Kate.
No worries. I would like to make a motion that the board pay this based on the advice of the attorney.
Yeah, what I kind of think, and Bill, correct me if I'm wrong, I was looking for if there's any invoices for an approved school that is secular that you have the authority to go ahead and pay for it, so we don't have to do this anytime that comes up, correct?
Not secular.
Secular.
Non-secular.
Non-secular.
I mean, you could phrase it either way. You can phrase it specific to the invoice, the request, but whatever the board feels comfortable with. I just need to know if I am saying yes or if I am saying no when these requests come in. And I'd like to know what the board's position is on that so that it's just clear and transparent.
Rich,
Yep.
Before the motion is completed, terminology, doesn't this have to be a school that is approved, not just approved, but approved to receive money from the state? Which they're two different categories.
My understanding is that it's just if they're an approved school and the state maintains a list, then that means they're approved to receive tuition money. Bill?
So the dominant list is the approved independent school list, of which I included on the agenda, which does include non-secular schools. But if a school is requested that is not on the approved list, the process is that I have to work with the principal, to work with the parent, to get verification that the governing body of the school or the institution. So let's say it's a school in Colorado. We have to get that the Department of Education in Colorado has approved that school for providing education in the state of Colorado. It's very common in New England that the New England Association of Secondary Schools would also be a governing body for schools such as Northfield, Mount Herman, Deerfield Academy, schools of that nature that may not be on the approved list. So the dominant one is on the approved list, and then the secondary is the governing body of the state in which the school operates, approves that school.
Is that good for you, Mark?
Yeah, I guess so. I still believe that there were two separate categories. The Vermont had two separate categories.
They do. There's the approved independent schools, and then there's the recognized non-home study schools.
Okay, so any approved school can receive public school tax money.
If you live in yes.
Okay.
So, Peter, can you reread Kate's motion?
Yes, sir. Move to pay based on advice of the attorney.
Okay, do we want to, Bill, is this for what you need?
And this is for yes, nothing bodies.
Bill? Hello?
Yes, I'm here.
Does that suffice for what you need, that motion
What the motion that Kate made? Yes.
that Peter just read?
Can you read it again, Peter?
Yes, Ms. Rideout moved to pay based on advice of the attorney.
Yeah, that's even clearer. That's fine.
Okay, do I have a second to the motion?
I'll second it.
Okay, so we have a motion by Kate and a second by Dwight. So it's open for discussion. Kate or Dwight, you guys get first dibs at it.
Well, I'll go ahead if you have a question, Kate. Just, it's my understanding that there's pending, well, I don't know about pending, but there'll be some work of within the legislature to address this situation. I'm wondering if, is there a way once we approve, if money gets approved, we'll be able to then deny those funds if there's a change in the legislature.
Yeah, we should be able to, because right now we're doing it at the advice of the attorney. And if the rules change, then depending on how the rules change, it may be that we can't pay it.
Okay.
Kate, are you all set?
Does the motion, does that keep us clear? So if the rules do change, if the laws are amended, does that keep us so that that Bill has what he needs, or the superintendent has what he needs to work with that?
So I believe it does, because I also know that if as a school you pay tuition to a place that you're not supposed to, because Dover did that one time on advice of an attorney, and then the state board had a hearing at Dover School, and we were told that we couldn't pay it and we had to get our money back. So So I do know that if you do pay something you're not supposed to, the state also jumps on that too. So I
Okay.
believe that should take care of us if in the future the legislature changes the rules or there's another court here. Anybody else for conversation? Go ahead, Mark.
So how do I put this? There isn't a chance in hell I'm voting to siphon more money away from public schools to pay for religious education.
Okay, well, that was kind of putting it one way. Laura, you all set?
No, I have questions.
Go.
I have a question for Bill. I have two questions for Bill. Do we know if these funds, if there are any limits on these funds being used for religious worship or religious institution at the schools?
So if asked by a resident of the River Valley District and the money was approved to be sent to a non-secular school, your question is there a way to track where that money is spent? So the difference between the use of the money versus the status of the institution?
Yes, because we have taxpayers' constitutional rights are also at play here.
I do not know of a mechanism that can ensure that the use of the money could be tracked.
And that is consistent with what I believe I know. Do you know what compliance mechanisms exist to ensure non-discrimination in religious schools?
I do not know of a mechanism other than federal law in discriminatory practices that an institution may or may not be subjected to. So short answer, no, I do not know of any guardrails around that.
So, Mr. Chair, I have been doing a tremendous amount of research on this topic, like all of you. It's keenly, I'm very much wanting to do the right thing here. I have some pretty strong opinions on it. I did send something out with my legislative hat to my constituents last night, just documenting the facts and the court cases around this that are at play. I am pretty clear that what has happened in Vermont right now is that there is a loophole. There's a technicality, and that that we have created a situation. There are not a lot of states in the country that allow for public tuition dollars to go to approved independent private schools, period. Never mind religious schools. There are two, Maine and Vermont. And they do not go, as you all know, to all of the students. They only go to students who live in certain towns. And what the Supreme Court and both Vermont and Maine had said, we are not paying that for religious schools, for non-secular schools. And what the Supreme Court has said is that in the unique situation in Maine and in Vermont, where you have decided that you're going to give public tax dollars to parents to allow them a choice, some parents, not all parents, to allow them a choice of where they send their kids to school, you can't tell those parents that they can't choose a religious school, because then you're discriminating on the basis of religion against those parents. So I understand the ruling. Rich, would you mind if I read from, and there is a testimony that was given in the legislature, brief, it's 2 paragraphs from a Vermont law school lawyer related to this issue that I'd like to read because they'll be helpful, I think, in explaining my vote on this issue. Should take about 2 minutes.
I have no issue. Does anybody on the board have an issue with Laura reading something?
No.
Are you okay? Dwight, you said okay, right?
Okay.
Okay.
Could you
this-
send it to me?
I will. Yep.
Thank you.
This is from in fact, I'll put it in the chat.
We
Is the
don't have a chat.
active? Okay.
No.
So this is from testimony that Peter Teachout gave to the Senate Education Committee on this issue. And in here, he says, and I quote, "First, as a matter of federal constitutional law, the state of Vermont cannot require religious independent schools to comply with state and federal anti-discrimination laws, since to do so would violate the free exercise rights of the religious schools. But it can provide that schools that fail to comply with state and federal anti-discrimination laws are not eligible to receive public tuition support. There is nothing in current federal constitutional jurisprudence to prevent the state from doing so. Second, as a matter of state constitutional law, the state has to bar public funding of independent schools that fail to comply with anti-discrimination laws in those instances where the funding is used to support religious worship or religious instruction, since to do otherwise would violate the compelled support clause in Article 3 of Chapter 1 of the Vermont Constitution." That's the end of the quote. And so this testimony was being given in Senate Education, which was trying to craft, I can't remember the word, but I put it out, the phrase, some safeguards around which we are able to do around discrimination. The Supreme Court did not rule on that. So I believe where we are, I believe we are in trouble either way, potentially. Whether we pay for this or we don't pay for this. That we are potentially violating taxpayers' rights if we do pay for it. And the interpretation of the law by the Supreme Court if we don't pay for it. So that's a pretty big conundrum for me. I will say that I don't know where the line is here, Richard. I'm trying to keep my school board hat on. I am really concerned about opening public dollars going to religious schools. I think the system of choice that we have now is inequitable already. As I said, it's not available to every student. And this, I think, adds another layer of jeopardy to that. And I think that the legislature will act. I think the legislature has to act. And I would actually like, Rich, if this can be a discussion at another upcoming meeting, I would like to see us have a conversation with the voters at town meeting about taking advantage of our ability to designate up to 3 independent or public schools for our students, which would remove the opportunity for sending students from river valleys to religious schools, There's public high school choice for all Vermont students. So all of our students would have the ability to select, as long as there was enough room, to go to any public school in the state of Vermont, as long as they could get themselves there. And so perhaps we choose 2 public schools and Burton, which is, where most of the students that go privately go. So I'm going to be voting no today. I'm going to be voting no, feeling like I'm on solid ground, because I think we're in trouble either way. I think this is a really difficult decision, and I appreciate Rich bringing it to the board and not leaving Bill hanging out there. And I would ask that we have this as a future agenda item. And that's it from me.
Okay. Anybody else? Then are you all set, Mark? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was looking to see whether Chad had made it.
Oh, okay. I don't think so. So anyways, I agree with you, Laura, that I feel like the state has really, again, stuck it to us. And unfortunately, the state has these schools on their approved list. And if they were violating anybody's rights, then I would hope that the state wouldn't have them on the list. And if they weren't following the rules they're supposed to, then why are they on the Board of Education's approved list? If they weren't on the approved list, we wouldn't be having this discussion. So, once again, I think the state of Vermont has let us down, which, you and I have been fighting that battle for back when I used to have hair. 11 years? Yeah, like 20 years. Unfortunately, they are on the list. I would imagine the state doesn't just add a school on the list nilly-willy because, Mark Schauber and Rich Warner call up and say, hey, we're starting the Mark and Rich School of Better Living in Dover, Vermont, and we want to be approved. And they just say, we're approved. Would you get approved, Mark? I'm sorry. I don't think I would.
I've got a different institution. I'd like to be approved for that. But what I was going to say was there is no quality. I was about to say Department of Ed, Agency of Education has no quality assurance program. So unless somebody makes a complaint, there's no way for them to know whether or not those schools are in violation of legal or moral laws.
Right. And that's kind of my point is, again, this may have been all taken care of if they actually, had a way or they actually did their job, I guess. And I don't mean, I know everybody's understaffed and overbooked and overpromised, but again, if this would be a whole different conversation if we had more comfort that the state actually checked these things out a little closer. Chad, you just joined us, so we're in a discussion. We have a motion. Peter, can you just read the motion so I get it right?
Sorry. That's right. I'd move to pay based on advice of the attorney.
And Dwight seconded the motion, and we've been around the world having a discussion. I don't know how to summarize it. Mark said there's no way with some explicitives that he would pay that vote to move money away from public education. And Laura feels that it's a conundrum we're in because we're violating somebody's right somewhere if either way we vote on this, because we also owe it to our taxpayers and the public to make sure our money is used properly. She's going to send us what she read. It was from testimony in Senate Education back last session when the Senate Education was contemplating something like this may happen. So is there, Dwight, you didn't get to speak, and then I'll get back to you, Mark, and Chad, if you have any questions.
No, I wanted to just thank Laura for what she had to say and kind of putting some clarity on the situation. I've certainly been reading about it, I'm sure, as everyone else has as well. And there's definitely a conflict between the Vermont Constitution and the U.S. Constitution. So someone's going to be upset with whatever decision we make here tonight, for sure. And it's my hope that the legislators that they come up with some plan. And certainly the situation where the schools are, aren't acting in the way they need to be, and if they're discriminatory, certainly that'll be the loophole that will be filled in, and those schools can be taken off that list, or a list can be created if they are discriminatory. I know that's a major part of the legislation. So what do we do here? Either way, we're going to be in a situation, and if there is a legal case against us, I would assume it would take some time, and during that time, maybe the legislators can come up with something to help us to do what we want to do. So it's a tough spot we're in, and we kind of all knew it was coming. So I think I'll be voting against this as well. And for those reasons, I think we're on solid ground here in the state of Vermont. We have a long history, and hopefully that can withstand the push that we're getting from the federal level.
Chad, do you have any questions? And then we're going for our second time around. So Mark.
No questions, just a comment. I think the word conundrum fits the situation very well. And I think we certainly understand, why or where, I guess, religion in schools as a teaching component has come under strife. And that, typically our public schools welcome everybody, and some parents, educators, and so on. I mean, the whole gamut of folks, stakeholders, would prefer not to have, an unequal instruction leading towards one, categorical religion or otherwise being taught. It's particularly if it's not something that their family believes in, and so on and so forth. I think if the attorney's advice is that, given our current situation, that we'd be best served to serve the student and their family, then I think that's the way we should go. And the reason I'm thinking that, here we have a student that wants to go to a parochial school. They want to get an education that includes the major 5 subjects, or let's say 4, adding in a language possibility. And then if there's a school that wishes to teach more, then so be it. And I guess we're kind of hamstrung in that we don't have the middle school, high school to say, listen, student X, you have an opportunity right here in front of you. And that's what we're willing to support you in. The state still has the school choice model. And again, it's a conundrum, and it's a tough call either way. Any way we can avoid litigation, that would be great. But I also think that we need to serve the best interests of this student, given the resources that we have.
Okay, thank you, Chad. Go ahead, Mark, and then Laura, we'll get back to you after Mark.
Rich, when you were saying the comment I had made, it was in regards to sending public tax dollars to pay for religious education. Wasn't to any private school. That's a separate topic.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Mark. I was just
okay.
trying to paraphrase.
That's okay. What we are addressing now is not an individual student. This is a district-wide decision. And we have every one of our students, every one of our future students, and every one of our taxpayers to consider. And to go back to what, sort of changing topics a little bit, go back to what Dwight was saying. I think that with the legislature bound to act, exactly how, we don't know, but they will act in one way or another on this. I think we are in a good position to stick to our current policies and await the results of the legislature. I am not afraid of being sued. on this. There's a point that you have to stick up for your morals, regardless of whether you have a bunch of, well, regardless of where on the legal spectrum the ruling is coming from. So I'm not afraid of being sued. Do I want to be? No. But we've got the moral high ground.
You all set, sir?
Yes, I am. So, and I'm definitely voting no.
That's not what you said last time, Mark.
I said there isn't a chance in hell I'm voting yes.
There you go, Chad. You got the full version. Laura, go ahead. You wanted to say.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify. So I did send everyone on the board and to Peter so that he can include it in the minutes. The testimony, it was not testimony to the Senate Education Committee. It was testimony to the State Board of Education. And it was testimony that was made on October 15th, 2021. And I am also not afraid to be sued, but I am afraid to be reckless in any way with taxpayers' dollars. And I do believe that we have the potential to be sued either way. And so for that reason, I feel comfortable saying no.
In your defense, Laura, Professor Teachout did give the same testimony to Senate Ed twice, I believe.
And I think Bill may have actually forwarded it to us previously. It's pretty instructive.
So I just want to clarify a couple of things, Mark and Laura. You don't have to worry about getting sued because they're not going to sue you. They're going to sue the school district. And then the school district, which acted with reckless disregard to the advice of our attorney that we paid for, went a different way. I don't think we have why do we ask an attorney's opinion if we're not going to follow it? So what we're basically going to do is we're going to use the school district's funds to defend something that we believe in. If our attorney said, it's a crapshoot, you can go either way, and I think you're going to get sued, but that's not the advice we got. The advice was you need to do this, and if you don't, you're going to get sued. It wasn't that you're going to get sued if you do it or sued if you don't. And I also, we sometimes beat up dollars and cents on budget items, and yet a lawsuit could cost us hundreds of thousands of dollars. And I don't know if I'm willing to spend that. We asked the voters, and Bill, I'll get to you in one sec. We asked the voters permission to spend $30,000 or up to $30,000 to develop a website that we all knew was the right thing, but we just didn't, some of us didn't feel it should be in the budget or just placed in the budget. Again, Laura, I do like your idea of asking the opinions, but right now we do have a recommendation. So just remember that. Bill, go ahead.
I just wanted to say that the specific advice from our attorney is our advice, the law firm's advice, is to pay to religious schools if we are a choice district or offer choice within the district, like River Valley's. We have no other options. So it is silent onto the ramifications of saying no, but the advice is to pay under current conditions.
And I do know the last time we denied this to another school, that school looked into, bringing a suit against us to make a case. And I guess the timing wasn't right. And that was one when the attorney kind of told us that, this is a tough one and you guys are going to have to make a decision. We actually had quite a few people in town who felt we should have paid it. So again, we are elected to represent, our electorate. But again, I don't know if our electorate's ever really weighed in on it. I mean, I think they have weighed in that they believe in school choice, they like school choice, and they like to be able to send money to anywhere they want it to go to. The prime example is the Burn Burton discussions that I saw both at Wardsboro and at Dover prior to the decision to become River Valley. So again, I beat it up. You guys, I think, have all beat it up. Chad, you didn't get a second chance, or Kate or Dwight. You guys have anything else, or are you guys all ready to vote? You all ready to vote?
I would just say one more thing. I don't think this is going to be our last motion on this issue. And if we do get served papers for a law, we can revisit this issue again. And maybe, we can get more information from our, from the district and from parents and whatnot moving forward. So I think there's going to be more discussion on this and more opportunities to move in a different direction.
Thank you, Dwight. Kate and Chad, you guys all set? Go ahead, Kate.
I have a lot of feelings on the issues, but based on the facts of this and based on what the direction that the lawyer went in, that's where my vote's coming in. I have a lot of feelings, a lot of history on education and religion and things like that. But I'm choosing at this time to separate it and go with the advice of the lawyer based on what we know of the facts on what the current environment is. And if that environment changes, I would like that we would change as well. So that's where my vote comes in. That's all.
Chad, you all set, sir?
Yes, I am all set. Thank you. And thank you everyone for your commentary as well.
Yeah, it's been very respectful discussion. Give me 1 second, Mark. So, this is very interesting. We've got a lot of different points of view here, and I do appreciate everybody being respectful of the board in this decision because it's not an easy decision. Mark, you got the last word, sir.
We could table the decision until a discussion with the public can be had.
Yeah, unfortunately, Bill has been presented with a tuition voucher and he needs to know how to deal with it. And it's not fair to that family to put it off without giving them a decision because they need to make arrangements to, if which school their child's going to attend, and it may be based on whether or not they can, get tuition paid. So I think we're hired to make the tough decisions. That's what we get the big bucks for, unfortunately. So I would be against tabling it because Bill needs an answer, and Bill's going to be hanging out there, and the parents, need an answer, and every parent is one of our constituents. It's not like we're talking about a child from Townsend or Jamaica. I mean, we're talking about a River Valley child, and we also agree that, we want to, and I'm going to get the wording wrong, but part of what we've discussed is being fair to all students, and do we have all the students' best interests in our heart? Not in our heart, but in our vote and in our actions. And this child wants to go to a school, and they're asking that we pay the tuition. They feel they're entitled to it, and the attorney feels they're entitled to it. And they've come to us, and if we say no because we don't agree with it somehow, are we doing the best for that particular child? So, Mark, I took the last word, so I'm going to shut up and give you the last word because I told you could have it.
I'll just point out that nothing is taking away the parent or the child's choice on what school to go to.
Yeah, financial is a way of people. A lot of people couldn't go to Burton unless we paid the extra money because they just don't have $1,000 to put in if we don't cover the extra tuition. So we kind of do when we don't agree to pay the tuition.
Still their choice.
Yeah. So are we ready to vote? And you did get the last word, Mark.
Okay.
So, Peter, please just read the motion again. I know it's a very simple one.
Ooh, excuse me.
Ms. Rideout moved to pay based on advice of the attorney.
And that motion was seconded by Dwight. So all those in favor, please say aye.
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 And those opposed, please say nay.
Nay.
So
No.
I do not believe it's a unanimous decision. So I'm going to do a roll call vote. I'm going to start with the way you guys appear on the screen. At 1 o'clock, I've got Mark Schauber.
Nay.
And at kind of like 3 o'clock, I got Chad.
Aye.
And Kate, you're at 6 o'clock.
Aye.
And Dwight, you're at like 7:30, 7:45.
All right. No.
Laura, you're somewhere between me and Dwight.
No.
Okay, so I count 3 no's and 2 ayes. Is that correct there, Peter?
That's what it sounded like to me.
Okay. I'm going to choose not to vote on this. Well, actually, I am going to vote, and I'm going to vote aye, which creates a tie, which pushes it, which means that it doesn't pass. So, Bill, you got your answer.
This is interesting because the default for me is to follow the attorney's advice. And unless I get a directive from the board not to, I'm going to approve as the administrator in my role the payment based on the attorney's advice.
Well, we could have another motion made. Go ahead, Mark.
Yeah.
You could.
I move that River Valleys does not pay for any tuition for secular. Now I'm mixing up the words.
See what I did to you?
Nonsense.
Yeah. Okay, for any non-secular, until such time that the Vermont legislature has determined how to handle the situation.
Mark, before we go for a second, I just want to make sure Peter has what you said.
Well, I read it, move that River Valley does not pay for any tuition for non-secular schools until such time as the Vermont legislature has determined how to address the matter.
Is that good, Mark?
Yep.
Okay, do I have a second to that motion? There's no second to the motion?
Someone second?
No, I don't have anybody. Do you want a second? Dwight?
I'll second it. Sure.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Now we get discussion. Mark, go ahead. If you want, you just made the motion.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've said my piece, and I think Laura probably said it a whole lot better than I did.
Okay, Dwight?
Yeah, I mean, obviously we've already discussed this, and you know, I understand that Bill has a directive right now, but I just would like to encourage the board to consider that this is not going to be over tonight. You know, if there will be other opportunities, and we can take this a little slower. And yeah, it could result in a lawsuit, but that may change our mind when we get other facts. So. You know, I'm gonna approve this and see where it leads us, and then if we get our backs against the wall, then we can, you know, make another decision at that time.
Go ahead, Chad, and then you can go, Laura.
Well, I think if we were to have posed this question to the attorney, it's most likely the response back would be, well, you can approve not to. However, given the current conditions, it would be read that you probably should. So I think, you know, just by restating the question, you know, in opposing terms, we're going to wind up with a very similar vote of 3-3. Or Rich, if you abstain, you know, then 3-2. But it still leaves us open in the same way that we would be acting contrary to the advice of legal counsel that was already sought.
Thank you, Chad. Go ahead, Laura.
I have a question for Bill. If this motion passes, what does that mean for you?
If this motion passes, when I receive a request to pay tuition to a religious or non-secular school, I would tell the requester that the River Valley Board voted on August 22nd not to allow payment to a non-secular or religious school. And here is the appeal process.
And if this vote is another push and fails, where are you?
I'm on my own because I would be getting no directive from the River Valley's board, and I'm going to default, as I always do, to the attorney's advice. And I will be okay with making that decision, but knowing that the board is split on me making that decision.
Laura, can I ask a follow-up to your question?
Yeah.
So Bill, has there
You're
been,
in charge, just in case, just as a reminder, you're running this show.
yeah, but it was your turn, so I'm stepping on your toes. Bill, have you been given any advice from the Vermont Department of Education?
The Vermont Department of Education is intentionally not giving advice, and they ask you to seek advice from your counsel. Same thing from the Vermont School Boards Association, seek advice from counsel. Everybody's waiting for the Vermont legislature to decide how to find a path forward. And we are in the 1 to 2 year period where it is gray.
Are you aware of any attorneys that have recommended to any superintendents to not pay it?
I am not aware, but to be fair, I have not gone out and sought that information.
Okay. Laura, you still have the floor. Go ahead.
Yeah, I have another question for Bill. Bill, was it your sense before this came to the board that you could make this decision regardless?
Yes.
Okay, and so it was my sense that the chair asked that this come to the board, knowing the previous history of this board on this topic, and so not wanting to put you out there at odds with the board. So
Yeah, it's a new world, so we figured that would be the appropriate thing to do.
So, Richard, I think I might just offer that we may have arrived at really the best place to be here.
Okay. Are you all set then, Laura?
I am, thank you.
Okay, Kate, you haven't got to weigh in yet. Do you have anything? Are you okay?
I feel that it's one of those really tricky situations. I think this is a really, it's definitely a huge conundrum. There's a lot of, people have some super valid reasons for feeling how they feel and coming to the decisions that they've come to. But I feel it's really important to, give Bill our backing to follow the directive of the attorney. So that's kind of where I stand on it. But I totally understand that people come to these decisions and this piece of information with very different ideas and thoughts. So we're all kind of where we're at. It happens.
Oh, sorry. Thank you, Kate. Go ahead, Chad.
Really just a question, given the phrasing of this current motion, knowing that the requester has already come forward, even if we passed under the language that Mark has submitted, are we allowed to apply that to this particular requester?
Yes. Yeah, I believe we are, because it's specific to this person is requesting to go to the exact kind of school that Mark's motion says that we can't pay to. So they have the choice, they can go, but they're just not going to get any tuition assistance from us.
Right, I understand, but given that we have not passed a motion of this sort, is the motion coming after the request?
Yes.
I mean, are we allowed, you know, in the ex post facto formula to say, well, we know we got the request, but we're going to change our rules so that we can disregard your request?
No, we've never had rules. The rules in the past have always been that we didn't pay it. And it was
Okay.
never a question, but because of this new decision that just came out, because the legislature, the Vermont legislature, so Maine actually created a way around it so that they, you know, as we were told earlier, Maine was created, their legislature created a way to prevent from having to do the payments. The Vermont legislature chose not to deal with it, to wait and see what the courts did.
Okay.
Like Act 60 all over again, you know, the reason they say, you know, Rick Hubie, who was a big proponent against it, you know, said when the legislature doesn't do its job, the courts have to. And that's unfortunately, then, you know, we have really no say, and then we're in this position here. So my only reason for voting for it is because I don't like what we do to our superintendent, the person we hire, when he doesn't really have a choice. And again, you know, I think Kate said it best. That was the only reason I wanted to bring this forward, so that nobody could go and say the superintendent never should have paid that. You know, the board should have got to decide. So I brought that forward, and it'll be where it'll be. Dwight, you all set, sir?
Yeah, I just, having said that, Rich, I understand you don't want to put Bill in a difficult situation, but it appears to me that either way he's going to be in a difficult situation, because this is such a new topic, and it's not as simple as just following the direction. And if you're just following the direction of an attorney, you know, that's not the end all be all. There are a lot of other issues to have to deal with, in my mind. You know, I deal with a lot of attorneys in my work, and some give good advice and some don't. And I would urge everyone to follow kind of like Mark said, their moral compass on this one.
Thank you, Dwight. That was the word I was looking for, compass.
Right.
Was what? I'm sorry, I missed that word. I missed it. What was it?
Your compass. You're facing north, I think.
He said follow your moral compass. I couldn't think of
Thank
that
you.
word before.
Okay. Are you guys all ready to vote? Y'all ready?
So just to clarify, a 3-2 vote gives Bill direction one way or the other. A 3-3 gives him no direction.
3-3 is a push, so the motion doesn't carry.
So right, it doesn't. So we are not giving Bill a direction at that point.
Correct. You guys okay? Everybody ready to vote? Mark, you got last word again, buddy.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
Read the motion one more time, please, sir.
Mr. Schauber moved that River until such time as the Vermont legislature has determined how to address the matter.
Peter,
Yeah,
you
you went out
cut
there
out for a minute. Try that again, please.
Again, move that River Valley does not pay for any tuition for non-secular schools until such time as the Vermont legislature has determined how to address the matter.
Okay, so the motion was made. I believe, Dwight, you seconded it. And the vote is all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
And those opposed, please say nay.
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 Okay, it's again not a unanimous vote. So because we're on Zoom, we're going to do roll call. This time we're going to do reverse roll call. Laura, you go first.
Yes.
Dwight,
Yes.
Kate,
No.
Chad,
No.
Mark.
Yay.
So Peter, I believe I have 3 yays and 2 nays.
I believe so.
Okay, so the chair is going to vote with the nays, and it's another push. And Bill, you got even less direction than you had before, except you lost a half hour of your life you're never going to get back, and I'm sorry. So can we have a motion?
I think it was a great discussion. I appreciate the transparency and the depth, and I agree with Dwight. This is going to be revisited many, many, many times moreover, but I feel much better about making the decision I need to make and understanding the context in which the River Valley Board had a thoughtful discussion about it. So thank you both. Thank you, all of you, very much.
So Peter, can you just make a note that at one of the September meetings, we'd like to have a further discussion on this? And Bill, I think, and you know, board, tell me if I'm wrong, I would like you to ask the attorney just to make sure that we aren't going to do anything that can put any of us in jeopardy, not us, but the district or you or the voters or the pocketbook.
Well, as you've all pointed out, those are unknowns. We don't know who will be upset about these decisions and who will be pleased by these decisions. But eventually, and eventually is tomorrow, a decision has to be made. So I'm going to follow the attorney's advice. I'm going to make a decision based on that, and whatever the consequences and ripple effects are will be. I don't think we can predict them.
Okay. But I'd still like to have a further discussion on this. I mean, Laura brought up some points, and so
Oh, yeah.
I think our next meeting is kind of full, but we can definitely push it to the October meeting. Go ahead, Mark.
Two things. One, I think it's an absolute waste of money to ask the attorney for any further recommendations or advice at this point. And two, I'd like to make an announcement that's unrelated to this topic.
Okay, can you hold on that for a sec?
Which is why I didn't start it on the announcement.
Thank you, buddy. So Peter, are you all set? We're all good?
Yes, sir.
And also, we need to know who voted how. It's not just that there were 3 nays and 2 yays.
No, I took the roll call.
Okay, I really appreciate that.
Yes, sir.
So we have another meeting. Bill, we've got we're set up for the Zoom thing with the retreat items from 5 to 9 on the 12th. In
5 to 9 at the 12th, it's going to be hybrid. It'll be at Wardsboro and on Zoom.
And then on the 19th, we're going to meet a regular meeting at Dover.
And we can put this on the agenda to have further discussion if that is the wish of the board.
Yeah, I think let's push that off to the first October meeting, just because I think we're going to have a lot of stuff, because we really haven't met for 2 months. So, Laura, hang on a sec. Mark, go ahead.
Laura, you can go first if you want.
Mine is still on topic, Richard, if that's okay.
Go ahead.
Just, I just wanted to specify, I don't know how much we're going to resolve in a big conversation on the agenda. My suggestion is that we talk about if we should ask the voters, pose this question to the voters. Other people may want to have another big conversation. Public may want to have a big conversation, but I'm specifically asking, we have it on the agenda to just talk about, should we go to the voters and ask them at town meeting?
And that's why I'm thinking it can wait till October, because that's when we're going to start setting up and talking about the annual meetings and budgets. Go ahead, Mark.
So as some of you know, some of you probably don't, I have a new job. I've taken the job as the program manager for the Vermont EMS Academy, which is a new part of Rescue Inc. And my job is basically to get set up and run the academic institution. One of the things that we are doing, we are opening September 6th. And on September 10th, which is that Saturday, we are holding a free CPR and first aid class for all local educators. Letters have been sent out to all 4 Windham County superintendents, letting them know about it. I just wanted to make the announcement public. And if anybody is interested in who works in the education field and wants to sign up, you just go to the website vemsa.org.
You send that out to Peter so we can include in the minutes, Mark?
Yes, you have 2 dates there, September 6th and what?
We open September 6th. The free CPR and first aid class is September 10th.
Thanks.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank
Okay, if there's nothing else anybody needs, Matt, thank you for coming tonight. Go ahead, Laura.
I just want to actually echo something that Bill said. And it's something that I worry about more and more as I look across, a lot of the civic work that is happening, and just say how much I appreciate the tenor of this discussion, Richard, your leadership, and Bill, and just all of you, that we're able to have this conversation respectfully. So I really appreciate it myself. It's inspiring, even though this is a really difficult topic. So thank you all.
And we've had a few difficult topics over the last few years with COVID and school choice and your work, yours and Mark's work with getting the counts right, so this is a really good board. You guys do a great job, and I really appreciate y'all. But with that, I want to go home and have dinner. So I'll entertain a motion to adjourn from somebody. Go ahead, Kate.
I was going to say if Laura wants to make it, I'll second, but I would love to make a motion to adjourn at 7:05 p.m.
1 hour. I told you half an hour. I lied to you again. Go ahead, Laura.
Second. It's
Okay.
faster than I thought it would be.
Go. Thank you, Matt. All those in favor say aye.
All right.
Night.
Have a good night.
Night,
Thank you.
Everybody.